It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And Tim, I believe this is the second successive week that we have the balloon motif behind you. Was kind of hoping for something that I wasn't going to be able to guess. That's kind of half the fun for me doing this podcast. But all right, it's a carryover.
No, last week was Gobbler's Knob.
Oh, well, last week was Gobbler's Knob. Yep. Okay, all right, you're right. And that's how much I've been been overwhelmed by the balloon. I've seen it everywhere, so I thought I saw it last week. And don't believe your eyes, you Montanans, when you see something that's 12 miles over your head. There's nothing to see here. The balloon thing was really like a Rorschach test. I mean, the funniest meme I saw was the sign on the balloon that said it was a Valentine's to Eric Swalwell from Fang Fang flying in. That was a good one. I myself had a mediocre contribution on Twitter to this. I put a link to the TV show The Prisoner from 1968, Patrick McGowan. Remember, they had that big white bubble that would materialize and suffocate people.
I do.
So that's what I did. And Tim, what's your contribution to the fun and frivolity?
Well, it's weird that the Chinese people would send something over here that they can't even say.
It's okay. I mean, all seriousness aside, so somebody said we had one of our military spokespeople said that we have this gap where we can't find these things, and it has happened before. First they were accusing Trump of he actually didn't know.
First they said they said they didn't tell him because they were worried what he would do.
Uh-huh.
And
but that wasn't really what happened. And the interesting thing is that, and I got to get my timeline straight on this again, but I think Biden originally wanted to shoot it down too. So that doesn't make him any different from Trump wanting to shoot it down. And we still don't know. I mean, they're telling us that it got intelligence that that they jammed the intelligence, so they weren't able to send it back to China, and they feared that debris would fall on the populace. But I mean, the problem
the Montana populace.
Right. The problem is
two cows.
It's hovering over our nuclear installations, and I mentioned this also in light of the fact that the U.S. Strategic Command notified Congress last month that the number of intercontinental ballistic missile launchers in China now exceeds the number of such launchers in the United States. But the U.S. still has more land-based missiles and nuclear warheads to arm them than China has. But I thought I was the first to say that this was a trial balloon that China was sending over. But then I saw that Laura Ingraham had it 7 hours earlier. So there's nothing new under the sun except for this balloon going into our territory. Also,
I started saying that all the Republicans should carry balloons into the State of the Union address, and Lauren Boebert actually did it. She didn't get all the way into the gallery, but
she did. And
not Lauren Boebert.
Marjorie Taylor Greene was going to do it.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I would confuse those two.
Of course. Well, and of course, then we'll talk about it a little bit later. She did have an explosion of sorts, and Biden kind of got sucked into that during the State of the Union. But first of all, I want to thank the Chinese because they got our minds off of white supremacy during Black History Month. Remember, that was what we were all talking about, the white supremacy of the Memphis police, even though everybody involved in it is black. But one bad thing was that, a lot of people want to believe in UFOs. I certainly do. And, a guy like Jimmy Pethokoukis of the American Enterprise Institute, was a smart guy, not some nutcase who just started believing that the earth was round a few years ago. He wants to believe in it too. And I think you might want to believe in UFOs as well. I've never really quizzed you on the subject, but now I'm going into like a UFO slough of the despond because it seems that we may have mistaken these things for UFOs in years past. And I'm wondering how many other things the military is keeping from us that we thought were UFOs, but really are just identifiable flying objects.
The UFOs, I believe the UFOs like in the 50s and 60s, those were actually like experimental aircraft that the Air Force was flying.
Okay.
That people would see and they go, no, we weren't flying. And of course they'd have to, in the secrecy, they'd say, no, we weren't flying in the area. And that the whole Area 51 crash, that was like a test jet that didn't go so well. And they,
okay.
And they gathered it up and they had to hide it really quick because they didn't want anyone to find out what technology they were working on. So it's the same kind of thing with them lying nowadays, only now that we have to lie about what the other guy has.
Right. Well, I mean, nobody really knows what went on here. I mean, so you cancel Blinken. It's who's Blinken first on this, and you really don't know what went on behind the scenes, and maybe we shouldn't know everything. So, I mean, a lot of it will be wrapped in mystery, but it didn't look. It just doesn't look. It's not a good look to allow. And of course, the Chinese were lying about it. We know that it wasn't a weather balloon. So, but at least they had.
Well, they were looking at whether we had nuclear weapons.
Yeah, right. Sure.
So it was a weather balloon of sorts.
But it's at least they had the decency to lie. It'd be one thing if they said, "Oh no, we're spying on you." Well, them's fighting words. But if "Oh no, we didn't mean to do that." So, and it was just a weather balloon. But yeah, so it
makes a lot more sense to shoot it down over the ocean because that way we won't be able to recover it all.
Right. I mean,
that way we won't know exactly what was on it. It would have been stupid to shoot it down like over Alaska where it wouldn't have hit anybody.
They had time to shoot what they spotted in the Aleutian Islands. January 28th, something like that. So, it's not a good look. But I don't know. Biden seems like Teflon. I believe he devoted all of 15 words of his State of the Union to the balloon, and that was after talking about junk fees. So that's how important that was. Well, and on a lighter note, there was a story, I think CNN did it, about these people who live on airplanes, grounded airplanes, jet planes. Bruce Campbell has now been living in his own plane for over 20 years. He has no regrets. I would never live in a conventional home. If Scotty beamed me to Inner Mongolia, erased my fingerprints, and forced me to live in a conventional structure, I'd do what I have to do to survive. But otherwise, it's a jetliner for me anytime. Another guy says, living in a house, you have a lot of space, but it's all wasted space. The only thing that I don't have here that I would have in a house is windows that open. He just opens the plane's doors to let fresh air in. I'm living on a jet plane. Won't go back to a home again. That sounds a little weird to me to actually live on an airplane.
Well, in the 60s, weren't hippies living in school buses?
I guess so. But
back then, if you really wanted to, you could get, change the spark plugs, gas her up, and leave. I mean, they look like they took out
right.
all the stuff that you would need. Plus, how do you get zoning approval to park an airplane on your property? That's
I know I'm seeing in the pictures of it is they look like they're in forests, whatever, and they look like they're where can you actually house that an airplane? I mean, they're it's not like they're sitting in big hangars. And
I would like one.
Do appear to be an eyesore.
The 747 that had the old cocktail bar at the top that with a spiral staircase that you could go.
Right. Do you know that I guess they made the last 747 last week? Last one rolled off the production line. Oh, yep. Look at me with my knowledge of aircraft here. But I just
how long?
I don't know
were they making those? That had to be 50
wrong
run,
with people
right?
who live in. I think so. I think so. But yeah, why? Take a flight somewhere. And
I did.
It's not like you're going to get miles, on your card. I'm sorry.
I did see a story a couple of years back about a guy. It's one airline offered like a all you can fly for like 30 grand or something like that. And a guy bought that, and he actually did live on flights. He sold his house, and he would just go fly. He would like fly overnight in first class and with the bed, and that's where he would sleep. And he would
see, if I had a yen to do something like that, I'd just go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and do that. I don't think I'd have to actually go all the way and be on an airplane. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. One other quick note before we conclude this segment. So, did you see the latest that the global warming we're in for is lower than we previously thought? But according to somebody, the impacts of it may be just as bad as what we expected. Well, no, that doesn't make any sense to me. It sounds like a non sequitur, but yeah. See, if you just wait, Jerry Reinsdorf once said, always put off till tomorrow what you don't have to do today, because the problem might take care of itself in the meantime. So, and that was a recipe for one White Sox championship in his tenure. So, but it's, yeah, what were we fretting about?
When somebody said before, I don't think it's going to be that bad, you were called a denialist, if I
Right.
if I remember correctly, and censored off of all the social media platforms.
Well, there's still plenty of panicking. I mean, we just don't have to panic as much, according to them. And besides, everybody's going to go under as soon as Social Security isn't cut, because neither side wants to do that. So they're just hoping global warming will take care of us before Medicare and Social Security are insolvent. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
The president signed in some of their shady business dealings.
Right.
That's why we're concerned about Biden.
No evidence of that so far. I understand you have questions.
Well, we have evidence that they've influence peddled, that they've always used the Biden.
But not in relation to the classified.
We don't have any evidence of the classified documents, but we're investigating that.
Okay, Congressman Comer, we're out of time. Unfortunately, we have a lot more questions for you. I know you have a bunch of hearings this week. Thank you for taking time to join us.
Thank you for having me. All right. Thank you. That's going to be it. That's the time that we're in, where facts are sort of flexible.
That's why we got Caitlin Collins on the Hill, fact-checking in real time. It was a great interview.
Citing uncredible sources, like citing the New York Post as a credible source and saying that facts are, it's just, I can't believe that we're here.
Caitlin, that was a great interview. All right, moving on.
Anyway, well, now moving on, because that's a big issue when it comes to the American, hold on please with the music. That's a big issue when it comes to the American people.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Stop the music. Stop the music. You remember we used to say that years ago?
Tim? Apparently. Oh, who used to say that? I think you're doing Jimmy Durante, correct?
Yeah. Exactly. He's right. Jimmy Durante is correct. Yeah. So I'm surprised Don Lemon didn't end the show with "Good night, Mrs. Calabash," wherever you are. So the guy interrupts the commercial break. I mean, CNN needs all the commercials it can get. The network's going belly up, and Don Lemon decides I'm going to do it my way. Yeah, I've had an axe to grind with Don Lemon since he.
Some people missed a disclaimer for a laxative treatment from the head cutting like that.
So I've had an axe to grind with Don Lemon since he was at Channel 5.
Was he?
Decades ago. Okay. And he refused to do a couple of assignments. And I was incredulous over that because, when I got to Channel 5, not only did I not refuse anything, but I said, I'll do anything. You want me to do the stupid traffic? Oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, people don't even have television sets in their cars, but I'll do the traffic. Okay, Bruce, you can do it. So, it's a TV job. How are you telling people that you're going to refuse an assignment? But he did twice because he's Don Lemon, and I have a feeling he got away with it, probably because
he's a lemon.
He was. Exactly. He's a lemon. And when you can't get what is the old phrase, Mrs. Calabash? He made lemon soda out of lemon juice, I guess. Yeah, he's a lemon.
What were the stories? Any idea what this? Can you remember what the stories were that he refused?
Probably your garden variety Murder on the West Side. I can understand him not wanting to do it. No, it probably didn't. Probably was serious news, but yeah, he refused a couple of assignments. Hey, more power to him. I
got a hair appointment
with that.
I can't,
and then
do that assignment.
He fails up, of course. He gets the CNN stuff. But in any event,
I can't see anyone. I can't see anyone that works for CNN calling anyone a disreputable news source.
Right. Oh my God.
I mean, 2 years. There years of Russian collusion.
Yeah, sure. There was a Columbia Journalism Review big story about how the media covered. It just came out recently. How the media covered the Russian so-called collusion story. And this is CJR, my friend. This is not some rag that Rupert Murdoch puts out. This is a left-leaning, at least leaning publication, and they ripped the coverage. Everybody fell for this, or the left fell for it, and of course CNN, as you mentioned, probably the biggest culprit. Hour after hour of Anderson Cooper. I mean, I guess they were in a race with what's her face from MSNBC, who I think at one point even she decided that Rachel Maddow, she said, "Oh yeah, I think we were had," which was an admission by her. But it's just ridiculous that Don Lemon would say such things. And of course now he's been relegated to mornings on CNN, right? So there you go. And who knows how long?
Because you want someone as cheerful as Don Lemon in the morning to start your day.
He's great. So as for Biden's State of the Union, we mentioned it before. As John Podhoretz did the count for his commentary podcast. Said Biden had 15 words about the balloon. That's not even a tweet. Okay, you got a lot of characters for you to talk about the balloon, Mr. President. It was interesting. I mean, little things. He apparently shook hands with Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, when you think, about how these are like the worst people in the world, how could you shake hands with a guy who allegedly dry humped somebody when he was in high school? I mean, it's just beyond me how you would even want to get the cooties from a guy to, Oh my goodness. So
do you really think Biden knew whose hands he was shaking?
At that point, only his hand was shaking uncontrollably. And then, of course, the claims in this, nobody who makes under $400,000 will have to pay any taxes to help make Social Security float. Forget it. The numbers don't add up. Everybody knows the numbers don't add up. And then, of course, this phony fight between him and the Republicans who bid on it and started jeering him that the Republicans supposedly are in favor of cutting Medicare and Social Security, which of course they're not. They should be in favor of it because things are going to be insolvent within the next 5 or 12 years.
Well, cutting it is one thing. He said they're going to sunset it. I mean, that's a whole different thing.
And, the whole thing is that, look, cutting in Congress speak means sunsetting. It means we're just going to cut the increases. We're not really cutting it. And even going insolvent doesn't mean it doesn't exist anymore, but it does mean, your benefits are really going to be cut back severely because we can't fund this darn thing anymore. But
you think that was
he makes
bait?
up numbers.
You really think that was bait when he was baiting the Republicans? He was expecting them to jeer like that?
He got lucky. I think he got lucky. And of course, then he's able to ad lib. And I mean, broken clock, right? Twice a State of the Union message. He actually
he's great ad lib too, saying I encourage conversion. That's a great ad lib he pulled out.
Look, look, for Biden, we're talking about quite a curve for Joe Biden, but saying stuff that he took credit for deficit reduction, which actually happened when COVID spending ended, which only what the COVID spending was that he's fighting to keep in the Supreme Court. What's that? There's that whole scenario where he wanted to have the Biden administration is trying to get rid of keep the emergency powers for COVID spending. Now let's
when the
erase
emergency
this
is going to be over.
Yeah, but arguing both sides, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene, taking the bait. But whatever. These things, I mean, we're not even talking about the balloon that much anymore. How long are we going to be talking about the State of the Union? Which, by the way, I didn't watch, and I wasn't the only one who didn't watch it. I know this guy, Charlie Cook. He's the writer for National Review. He is paid to watch the State of the Union, and he wrote that he walked out of it after a few minutes. I didn't read the rest of the story about that. I'm not going to take time to see what he walked out of. But did you watch it?
See what you missed. You missed. You missed the first gentleman slipping Dr. Jill the tongue. That's what you missed.
Oh, doctor. Well, she's a doctor.
I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
I figured anything important, they're going to show highlights. It just
right.
Those things have become so tedious. Right. Talking point applause for 2 hours. I mean,
no, and I'm strictly I watch clips of things. For example, I got to admit, I hate to admit this because I know our side hates Saturday Night Live, but I am recommending you take a look. There's a clip. It's 5 minutes. It's a parody of a quiz show. It's called The Big Hollywood Quiz. And, it's like Jeopardy, but the whole premise is they're quizzing people about Hollywood, and nobody even knows what's going on in Hollywood anymore. No, the public has no idea. Like, one of the questions is name 3 movies in the last 5 years, and then nobody could do it. So, but it's executed much better. I just gave you the naked premise to it. It was executed very well. So, look, I'm extending an olive branch to the other side, Saturday Night Live, the other side of the culture war. But it's just indicative of the fact that we're so fragmented now. All we're willing to do is watch a clip of this or read a tweet. At first, I thought they were seeing it's the Hollywood Quiz show. If you're watching this right now, or watching a clip of this, you're seeing a clip of that. We're thankfully we're so fragmented that you're not going to be wowed by anything that any president ever says. And I read the tweets at the beginning. It looked like they were saying that Biden was mumbling and going very fast through his speech, which I thought was a good thing. Just get it over with. But then they said, "Oh no, he sounded." The consensus was that he was okay. I mean, even a guy like Michael Brendan Doherty of National Review thought that he did all right, and it certainly seems like he didn't put his nomination for 2024 in jeopardy. Which is kind of what people, I guess, were hoping, that he'd turn around and shake hands with what he thought was Nancy Pelosi and it was Kevin McCarthy. That kind of thing did not happen, unfortunately. But Brendan Doherty had a good suggestion of how the Republicans can fight Biden. They should fight him on fentanyl and on gender dysphoria, culture wars, because he's allowing all of this, and he doesn't want to really do anything about the border, although he, pays lip service to that. But the gender dysphoria thing, parents are not even being told by the schools whether their kids are deciding to change their sex or back to the what they really are at heart. And parents don't like that, and that's a wedge. Agree?
Yeah, I agree on that one. I don't agree on the fentanyl one. I don't think it's I don't think it's possible to keep fentanyl out of the country. I think it's an amount of fentanyl the size of an aspirin is 31,000 doses and is worth like $60,000.
Well, you know a lot about your fentanyl, sir, and I think you may have a vested interest in this. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
That we are opposed to banning books in the state of Illinois is something that people ought to know about us. That we are not interfering with the presents, their information to their classroom, their kids. That we're lifting up education. We're not tearing it down. And other states are doing that. And I think that whether we're talking about businesses that are thinking about moving here or people that are thinking about moving here, people are choosing not to go to those states where they're restricting freedoms and instead coming to Illinois where we're protecting them.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. So, I mean, what is Pritzker talking about here? Nobody's coming to Illinois. What did we lose? Over 100,000 last year? And he's talking about.
Yeah, but we might have lost 200,000 and 100,000 people who didn't want banned books came here.
Right. I mean, to me, Illinois is a nice place to visit for an abortion, but I wouldn't want to live here if I were a fetus. Anyway, so.
Well, you see, that's what I'm saying. That kind of, if two come in, only one leave.
So the thing is, Florida, I believe it's Duval County in Florida has banned some books like Rosa Parks' book and another book that references Jim Crow in 1953 or something like that in Florida. But aren't there districts in Illinois that ban certain books too? I know books like To Kill a Mockingbird,
Huck Finn.
Huck Finn. Did you read Huck Finn?
I saw the movie.
There you go. It's good enough. So I think I read it in 6th grade, and it was a slog, especially for a 6th grader. But I know that Walker Percy, one of my favorite authors, said, "Hey, it really gets boring after they stop crossing over from one state line to another, because that's what's really exciting to Walker Percy, crossing over to something else." But of course, it was the words, the N word in there that got it.
I think Mark Twain had ADD. That's what I believe.
There you go. But
it always seems like his books start out great and then he loses interest before you do.
Right. Seems like what
and he didn't even finish.
So
he didn't even finish the Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. No one has any idea how that's really supposed to end. He just started it and just kind of left it up to Hollywood to write endings.
It's really tough to be a novelist if you can't even read a novel, and that's probably the problem with Mark Twain. Hey, I'm with you, Samuel Clemens, but I'm sure there are school districts in Illinois where you can't read certain books. Am I wrong about this? I mean,
sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So it just depends what you're banning, right?
And weren't the books that Florida banned, weren't most of them like pornographic?
Well, they
had graphic descriptions on how to engage in anal sex and stuff like that.
Yeah, the problem, is you make it seem like Florida's really reactionary when DeSantis just wants them to be exposed to anal sex when they're in 9th grade, not in 7th grade. It's just, that's really what it comes down to. I want you to be able to do critical race theory when you're in college, but not in high school. But it was an AP course, so it was a college level course. It was the critical race theory that they were gonna. But my opinion is critical race theory belongs in the dustbin. I mean, it should be taught the same way we teach fascism. Is that here's something that happened? Here's a curiosity that happened, caused a lot of trouble, and nobody believes it anymore. It's fascism, eugenics. I mean, critical race theory. They all belong in the same place, in my opinion. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. So anyway, it's just interesting how selective Pritzker is about which books are banned. Do you remember when there was a hubbub over this book? This has got to be more than 25 years ago. Heather Has Two Mommies. Do you remember that? You remember that book?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, well, we don't want that in the schools. Well, of course, now people prefer that you have two mommies. I guess it's like we should, actually, you can't even call anybody mommy. It's parent one and parent two now, like a Dr. Seuss coinage. But
I don't see anything wrong with a kid growing up with two mommies. Granted, he's going to learn how to throw a baseball funny, and
sure.
he's going to be the only kid in high school who actually wants to walk in on his parents. But aside from that,
oh, okay. So, Governor Pritzker, you're wrong. But that leads us into the schools here, and there's a story recently that school choice is starting to win bigly. That was my headline on it, but I forgot where I think I picked this up from National Review. Whether it's placing biological males in the girls' bathrooms and locker rooms, calling children by pronouns that differ from their sex behind parents' backs, or teaching a radical and ahistorical ideology that condemns America as irredeemably racist and divides people into oppressors and the oppressed. Public schools are breaking faith with the families they're supposed to serve, and so people are revolting against this. And I would just say the subhead on this would be, it's the bathroom, stupid. So yeah, and they're doing that, and that's the thing that helped propel Youngkin to his win in the gubernatorial race in Virginia. And then we seemed like we lost sight of it, especially in Illinois, where we're talking about crime. Nothing wrong with talking about crime, but I thought it was all about the COVID regime that Pritzker had imposed, and then all this licentious teaching that you got going on in the schools, and where you can't even, as I mentioned before, there are schools that believe that you shouldn't even tell the parents if the kid is deciding that he wants to change his sex. And people,
you keep his pills, you keep his puberty blockers in the nurse's office, and the kid comes in every morning, and then
people don't realize, parents decide, they become parents, and they got all this emotional and financial investment in these kids that they raise from the time that they're born. They really don't want teachers telling them how to raise them. But like I say, Tim, it all went bad when they started teaching sex education when I was a sophomore in 1969. It was 9 weeks of hysteria. It was we laughed. Oh, we laughed so hard. But because we were the first ones to get it, really shoved down our throats, so to speak.
That was in ninth grade.
It was sophomore year.
Sophomore, 10th grade.
Yeah, that's 10th grade.
You pretty much didn't need the education by that point. You were pretty aware of how it happened.
Well, you'd seen your friends' father's Playboys that he kept on the top shelf.
Sure.
It was only partial nudity back then, so you had kind of an idea. You'd seen Anita Ekberg and I'll Take Sweden with Bob Hope, of course, and you were wondering about those stirrings. You watched Bye Bye Birdie in the movies, and you wondered why. All you wanted to do was see Anne Margaret dancing. You didn't really care about anything else. So, yeah, I guess we kind of knew what was going on. You still needed to, have the manual, I guess. But this is what's happening. And when J.K. Rowling is being threatened, that's Harry Potter for criminity's sake. Sure. And so that's the culture war. Just as there's a lot of middle
and she
of the
actually,
road.
she actually went above and beyond. She made a couple of the wizards gay just to appease the community. And but no, that's not enough.
No. So now she's getting her just desserts. Okay. All right. Moving forward right here. So did you see the latest on the Memphis police? There was a story that basically the Memphis Police Department was hiring anybody because they lowered their standards to nothing because they had such a bad crime problem in Memphis and such a shortage of cops. And of course, it's a vicious cycle because the more restrictions you impose on the police and you're ready to throw them in jail for long periods of time for using maybe slightly excessive force or whatever, the fewer people you're going to qualified people that you're going to get to become policemen. So maybe this is what actually happened in Memphis. I
can't think of many jobs that if you mess up at your job, the punishment is as heinous as it is to a cop. I mean, if you're a cop and you mess up, you could be facing prison, and prison for a cop is just a little bit better than a child molester.
It's almost like it's a catch-22 here. That, I mean, the only people who would want to be cops are insane. And so, and if you're insane, you're going to do those kinds of things. But this is kind of the fruit of the defund the police movement, because isn't it a liberal article of faith not to allow prospective employers to ask about criminal records? So yeah, right. They probably couldn't ask these guys, if they had do a background check on them.
Well, I think though, just like the best people, to root out computer viruses are former hackers.
Exactly.
I kind of think it's not a bad idea hiring criminals to be police.
Hey, this is why I voted for Donald Trump twice. It was like the dirty dozen. You got to, as Obama said, they bring a knife to a fight. You bring a gun. They bring Hillary to a fight. We bring an unbelievable narcissist, and he wins. And
that's actually a good point. That's probably why they feared him so much. Is you want to stop corruption in government? Hire someone that's been bribing the government for 30 years.
I know how to do it. I know these rules.
I know how it's done.
I filed for bankruptcy 15 times. I know how to game this system. Yeah, Donald. So there is a new president of Northwestern University, my alma mater, and I'm proud to say, I just want to mention this, that I don't even know more than 3 words of my school's fight song. Go you Northwestern, bum, 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 bum. Never learned any more of it. I'm glad of that. It's commensurate with how much money I've given as an alum. Well, I haven't even given 3 cents worth to Northwestern.
I don't even know if you're allowed to say fight at Northwestern anymore.
Right. Well, they had that journalism professor who actually criticized Eric Zorn, a liberal, on the Tribune at the time, who a Northwestern journalism professor who Eric Zorn was saying we should wait. Remember that cop who shot the kid who had a gun in Chicago, and there was a question of whether the cop should have shot this 11 or 12-year-old kid. And Eric Zorn said, let's wait to see how the facts play out. And this Northwestern professor said, no, we don't want to wait for the facts. I mean, it was so Orwellian.
Due process.
That's Northwestern. So I think I'm going to forget even the 3rd word to the song. It's just go you from now, and go you and get out of here. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
One of the biggest growing trends in bowling is two-handed bowling. Almost all the young competitors out there to generate that power are bowling two-handed. And today, we're going to attempt, as best as we can with Coach, to talk a little bit about the two-handed style. As you mentioned, you were right, Mike. It's all over, and it's very popular, especially with our youth coming up. And the game varies energy at the bottom. The ball speed and rotation, and this gives you that energy immediately as soon as you go into two hands.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And Tim, the reason I want to show a video of a guy, which we did at the beginning there, for those who can see it, a guy throwing a bowling ball with 2 hands is because these are professional bowlers that are throwing.
That's usually how kids do it. They walk to the end and
a 5-year-old would throw it that way. I was expecting to see bumper pads as well when I was watching. I was so lonely. I took some comfort there this weekend. I mean, pardon my the boxer there reference. There wasn't any sports on, no football last weekend, although there was the Pro Bowl, which they turned into a flag football game, which I have to admit wasn't all that bad. I only saw 2 plays of it, but these guys are playing flag football, so they're not wearing any equipment, and they're running around, and you realize, well, that's the game that we could play. We could actually play flag football. And then you notice the difference in the way they're running around athletically and throwing the ball at 90 miles an hour. And you realize you can really see the difference between you and the professional athlete. Whereas when they're wearing the equipment, it looks like they're robots anyway. So I watched a little bit of bowling, and it was okay. And did you watch bowling as a kid? Saturday afternoons at all? Did you watch bowling?
I never
did. You're never that.
The only time I watched bowling was there was a MTV, I think, had a bowling for dollars show.
Okay, all right.
It was kind of fun for a while.
They even have
a two-handed bowler sounds like a homophobic slur, kind of, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions here, but you have
he's
to
a
throw with
two-handed
2 hands.
bowler, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I'm just, but actually it works. It's a good strategy, and I think I'm going to try it because I've lost a lot of muscle mass in my dotage, and I can't hoist the ball as well as I used to. But
now it's okay. Now it's okay. Now that professional
it's all
bowlers
right.
are doing
and
it.
I might identify as a female bowler in the Wednesday night league that I want to get into. Okay, because you only have to average a 187. But yeah, so it was just
if you watch the video all the way through, it's kind of funny because he keeps missing. He's not the guy that's demonstrating the two-handed bowl is missing.
Well, okay, but they actually had a guy who did very well with that. So I'm going to try it the next time I get out to the.
And it's not against the ruls. That's what puzzles.
Oh no, that's fine.
They never said you have to use just one hand.
Plus, I got to tell you, my fingers kind of, I've gotten a little chubby in my latter years here, and they don't fit into the holes, if you know what I mean. Okay, so so the Kansas City Chiefs, of course, it's Super Bowl week, and I think it was NPR. They got to have some angle. So of course, the angle is how politically incorrect the name Kansas City Chiefs is, because if you watch any of these games, they're doing tomahawk chops and they're going whoa, 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 whoa. It's just like,
and you wonder how. I thought that was the Braves.
Well, the Braves and the Chiefs. It's they've the Chiefs have the Central Time Zone, and the Braves get the Eastern Time Zone on the chop. And
one of the funniest moments. One of the funniest moments for me was seeing Jane Fonda do the tomahawk chop.
Oh yeah,
she was married to Ted.
Well, that was in her Ted Turner era. Yeah. When she decides to marry, Jane Fonda, she was sick of Tom Hayden, and oh my, another protest. Okay, so she decides that she's going to that she's going to marry the rich guy. She was going through a phase. Yeah. She's always going through a phase. Now she's going through a phase that I think the latest one is that climate change causes inequality, or global warming causes it. I don't know where because. We as conservatives believe that the climate activists are actually hurting the poor because they won't have the energy. Shut off your gas stove.
Sure.
Rub 2 sticks together. So anyway, that was NPR, I believe's contribution to the Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't have any information on Patrick Mahomes' ankle, so it was virtually useless.
Well, we lost the Cleveland Indians. We lost the Washington Redskins. So what's left?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that the Chiefs, they still have a couple of days left before the Super Bowl, and wouldn't this be a nice gesture if they changed their name to the Lady Commanders? I just thought that would be and then they could, Washington could have the Commanders in the Eastern Time Zone. They could have the Lady Commanders. So I was watching this. Have a 2.5-year-old grandson, and anytime there's anything the least bit palatable on TV, you want to watch it, as opposed to, you've never heard of this guy Blippy who goes yay all the time. That's what the usual fare is for 2-year-olds. But there was this movie called Wish Dragon, and I think it was DreamWorks, and it was pretty good, and it involves this Asian kid, and but the thing is that I couldn't tell that the kid was Asian at the beginning, because and I don't need the stereotypical drawing. Like, I don't know if you remember, saw Family Guy where Homer was the police sketch artist, and he asked somebody to describe an Asian, and then he comes around, and it's the quintessential stereotypical Asian, with the hat and the buck teeth and everything. No, you don't have to look like that. But this kid kind of looks like he's half Asian, half Caucasian.
So it didn't start out with him doing math problems.
No, it just started out. He's distraught because he didn't get admitted to Harvard. And then we don't need to see that. Chris,
he's 8 years old. He's working coming home from the iPhone plant.
Right. He's coming home from the iPhone plant. He's one of 10 tool and die makers in the People's Republic of China, so he's very valuable. Sleeps. I'm surprised he gets to come home, because he's in the barracks, and they're like firemen and on 12-hour shifts. So
here's a funny thing. Here's a funny thing. A friend of mine told me he's from Hong Kong, and he said when the iPhone came out with facial recognition in the beginning, it was kind of a scandal in Asia because anybody could open anybody's phone.
Oh my God, that's how bad their facial recognition was. So in other words, what you're saying is that the Chinese were reinforcing stereotypes again.
No, Apple was.
Apple was. Okay.
Apple,
well, Apple was making them in China. So, blame it on them. Anyway, a little bone to pick. I know you don't do the New York Times spelling bee every day. I try to do it. And I try to force it to recognize words that don't exist. Like there's a word, acacia, ACACIA, which I think is some kind of tree or something. You think I'd actually know. I wish I could ask them to use it in a sentence. So, for the New York Times spelling bee, but they don't recognize the word occasion. Now we're showing something that shows that there is a word occasion, but that's of or relating to the occasion. That would be based on. I'm getting way too deep into something that Tim and 99% of.
Well, I think occasion. I actually think occasion is what a kindergartner does in the summer.
Hi-yo. Okay, thank you. We've now devolved into Karnak. All right, now I'm going to give you another one I got from the Funkin' Wagnalls sitting in a mayonnaise jar. Sis boom ba. Okay, you know that one, right? Yeah. The sound of an exploding sheep bakes. Okay, yes, on occasion. On occasion, we're funny here. So, all right, moving on right along here. Oh, Oprah is sponsoring the 1619 project.
Yes, I saw that.
It's on TV. I forgot what is it? Is it on?
It's on Hulu. I know that. I know that because there was something I wanted to watch on Hulu, and I said, "Oh, I should sign up for Hulu." And then I saw that, and I said, "No, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to subscribe to Hulu."
Here's the problem. I mean, Oprah, the 1619 project. You'd think that they wouldn't want Oprah's endorsement. I mean, she's the one who was behind, all these elixirs, all the snake oil, be it Dr. Phil or remember that book? What was it called? The Secret. Just have your wish board behind you, and all this voodoo stuff. And how many times has she lost 67 pounds and regained it? But anyway, basically, the 1619 project says that slavery is the basis of capitalism. And, as Rich Lowry asked in the National Review, well, then why did the North fight the war? Because why?
Yeah.
If the North's capitalists, and it is slavery, I mean, do the syllogism, Oprah, if you can.
It's actually the opposite. Whereas the North was forced to actually start using industrial techniques to improve their farms, the South did not, and that's why the North became far more prosperous.
All right, and you and I have just both gotten AP credit from Rick DeSantis and nobody else if we ever go back to high school. Thanks, Tim. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.